Hey everyone, it's Victor here. Welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, I create the content around web development, real world projects, and most importantly, cracking the technical interviews. So if you are someone preparing for JavaScript, React, or full stack interviews, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Well, today in this video, we are going to break down one of the most important and most misunderstood interview question. Well, the question is, can you explain a complex JavaScript problem you solved and the trades-off? Right now, it's not just a question. This is where the most developers either stand out as a senior or get rejected instantly. So in this video, I will show you a real world problem, how to structure your answer, and how to talk about the trades-off like an experienced developer. So without wasting your time, let's get started. Well, before jumping into an example, you need to understand why this question is asked. Interviewers are not just testing your syntax and the basic concepts. They are also testing how you think and how you make decisions and how you handle the real world problems, right? See, anyone can write the code, but not everyone can explain why they wrote it in that particular way, right? And that exactly what the question is about. If you answer this correctly, you immediately move on to the top 10% of the candidate. So let's talk about the real problem. I was working in a large React and the Next.js applications. So the app had global state using context API and multiple components consuming the states, frequent updates like users, data, cards, filters. This was an issue, right? Whenever the global state updated, all the components get re-rendered. So even those that didn't need to be updated. So what this caused? It causes the UI issues, UI lags, slow performance, and poor user experience. So the root cause of this particular problem is context API triggers re-renders for all consumers whenever the value changes. So even if a small change leads to a big performance hit, right? So now you need to answer how you approach this and how your thinking process, right? Basically, this is where the interviewers start evaluating it. So now this is where you need to think like a senior developer. Instead of jumping to a solutions, I followed a structured approach, right? You need to start like I followed a structured approach. Like the step one, like identifying the issue. So I used the React dev tools, profilers, and console logs and render trackings. So to confirm is there any unnecessary re-renders. Then step two, explore the solutions. I consider three options, right? Using the memorizations like react.memo or using the use memo hook. Then splitting context into the smaller parts instead of breaking into huge big containers. I'm going to break those things into smaller parts. Then using external state managements like Redux and Zestance, something like that, right? Step three, you need to deliver by comparing the options. So this is where the trades-off comes into the place. And this is what the interviewers care about the most, right? So let's break it down. First one, option number one, memorizations. Easy to implement, right? It's really easy to implement and you don't need any extra dependencies, but it's very hard to scale and it doesn't fully prevent the re-renders. Then option number two, split context. More control, better than the single context. And when it comes to large applications, it really becomes messy with many state updates. So still, it's not fully optimized. So that's not an option. Then option number three, that's standard. In our case, based on the applications, Zastand, it goes smoothly for most of the mid-level application, not like top level, mid-level. So if you're going for full-fledged top-level applications like Amazon, Flipkart, or any other top branded e-commerce website, you need to go for Redux. But for mid-level applications, Zastand is a better option. So you have the selective subscriptions, only re-renders and on the required components, and clean, and it's highly scalable, right? But the problem is you need to add an external dependency and you need to have slight learning curve, right? So the final decision, I choose Zastan because of the performance that was very critical and it provided the better scalability and control over the applications, right? And finally, we need to talk about the implementation and the result, right? After implementing this Zastan, components subscribed only to the required state, so it prevents the unnecessary re-renders and it get eliminated, right? So the UI performance improves the significantly, so the performance increases, user will have the better interface, right? Then result, so we have the faster interactions, we have the better user experience, then we have the cleaner architecture. So, and most importantly, this solution was scalable for your future features also, right? So now all we have to do, convert this into a perfect interview answer. This is the answers, right? So how can I deliver these answers in a simple short form to the interviewer, right? So you can say, recently I worked on a React application where frequent re-renders were impacting the performance due to the global state updates using the context API. So I analyzed the issue using the React profiler identifier unnecessary re-renders across the components. So I evaluated multiple approaches, including memorization, splitting context, and even an external state management, right? So finally, I chose this stand because it allows the selective subscriptions, reducing unnecessary re-renders. So the trades-off was introducing, like say, an external dependency and slightly increasing the complexity, but it significantly improves the performance and its scalability, right? So did you notice the structure? You need to say what's the problem, you need to say how you analyzed it, and you need to explain the options. Then you need to give the decision, what decision you made, and finally you need to talk about the trade-off, right? That's what makes it a senior level answer. Okay, so once you finish answering these questions, you need to ready for the follow-up questions as well. As so here are some follow-up questions you should be ready for. First one, why not optimize the context API? Then why not use Redux? Then how do you measure performance? And then how would you scale this up in the future, right? So if you can confidently answer these questions, you are interview ready candidate, right? So all right, so here are the keys takeaways to follow up in these questions, right? So it's about the problem solving and it's about explaining your decisions and the trades off. That's the most important key parts you need to answer in this question. Apart from that, you don't need to explain any coding stuffs, nothing else, right? So that's what companies is really hiring for, the senior developers, right? So if you found this helpful, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment interviews if you want more deep dive questions, right? And subscribe for more real world content, developer content. I'll see you all in the next video then.